G'day, pilgrims. We know the feeling when something is too real and we cannot remain unaffected. My best mate had a vivid dream, and within days it materialized in front of his eyes. He doesn't just think God is real, he knows he's real. And Isaiah 64 says this is what God's presence does, only on a global scale. In verse 2, as fire causes wood to burn and water to boil, your coming would make the nations tremble. Then your enemies would learn the reason for your fame. This is a great description of God's reality when he stops being an idea and becomes an intimate presence. If his presence is revealed for what he really is, the effects are overwhelming and nobody remains unaffected. This is like when God speaks with Moses and Moses' face shines afterwards, and it's so confronting. He has to wear a veil. Or time and again when God reveals himself in Scripture and people hit the ground in fear and trembling. And perhaps this is why Scripture so often describes him as hidden in cloud or darkness, not because he's morally dark, but because we're limited and he's something else altogether, even though he is light in whom no darkness dwells. If we see him as he really is, our whole sense of stability gets shaken and we may not be able to bear it. Before we dismiss this as poetic exaggeration in this verse, just remember that most of the universe is still unknown to us, with dark matter and dark energy making up the majority. What's at the core of this? No human being knows the answer. The visible universe we can account for is only a small fraction of what exists. And even what we call solid is mostly empty space inside atoms. Everything we think is solid is at a deeper level, far stranger and more nebulous than our everyday senses suggest. At the quantum scale, the world does not behave the way our common sense expects. The world is not what we comfortably and naively assume it is. So Isaiah's picture makes perfect sense as a spiritual reality expressed in physical language. When God comes near, the world reacts. It makes more sense to realize the material world is not as self-sufficient as we pretend it is. We live in a universe where the unseen is not less real, but in fact more real. And in verse 5, it sums up our purpose. The best use of our time while we're waiting for God to reveal himself is to use our time joyfully working at doing the right thing in his sight and remembering him in everything we do. Remember, a chapter a day keeps the meaningless away. Love you guys.